Hello and welcome to another video. Today you find me in my fitness expert wannabe persona because I want to talk about recovery and especially recovery connected to cycling activity. And this is extremely important, especially for middle-aged cyclists like me. We all been out on a ride, long or short, and coming back from a ride, all the aches will inevitably come up, and growing older, even more so. It's extremely important at this stage, especially for a cyclist, to analyze first what actually is hurting us, because the main priority for us to establish is if it's a good hurt or a bad hurt. Now, you want to differentiate this, which is very important because some of the pain might come from the wrong fit on the bike. This will be for you the first area to concentrate on because recovery from those issues is going to take longer and your body will unlikely adapt to a wrong setup on the bike. First of all, the red flag aches are definitely neck pain when your position on the bike is not correct. Then after neck pain, anything really strong in the trapezius area is again connected possibly with the wrong position of the bike, putting too much weight on the handlebar. Similarly, pain on the wrists that might come from a wrong position of the levers, and numbness on the hands. These are all red flags that you would be more likely to adjust the position on the bike than concentrating on recovering from those pain. Yes, you can do both, but first of all I will look into the bike setup. Same for low back pain. Saddle too high, for example, comes to mind. Wrong saddle, I've done a video on the saddle, so anything on the lower back I would say could possibly come from the wrong setup. And muscle wise, we do need to understand where the muscle hurt and if there's any disparity in the leg pain. If you are experiencing a lot of pain on the quads, it's highly likely that your saddle might be set up too high. You are exerting only on the quads rather than using your hamstring and the glutes. Ideally, when you come out, yes, you can be all in pain in the leg, but it needs to be distributed equally on the leg itself. Moving down, of course, pain in the calves might come from a wrong setup on the cleats, and at the same time, the ankle pain might come up on the wrong position of the cleats or the angle of the cleats, whether your toe is pointing inwards or outwards too much and you are, without really thinking of it, forcing your ankle in the wrong position. These are all the red flags there. If your pain is concentrating on this, I will look into the bike setup. Then you will be able to, once you got the perfect setup for you, concentrating on healing with the recovery, the good pain, as in the pain that came out from a good strong effort, a long ride where it's naturally that your muscles are going to hurt, and we'll be going to look into the best way to alleviate those pain with the correct movements. I will start with the neck and alleviate the soreness straight away. Be extremely careful. Neck is a very sensitive part. You don't want to crook any of the vertebrae, of course, and it's very important to do everything gentle. Straight away off the bike, I will slowly rotate the neck to alleviate the pressure that inevitably you'll have on the side of the neck for the prolonged time on the riding position. Never ever turn backwards when pushing hard. This inevitably will cause some problems, and I talk about from experience because, believe it or not, I got an injury back in the days putting on this head guard when I was about to do a sparring session in kickboxing. So I put this with a bit too much force, and by doing so, I crooked the neck and I couldn't do the sparring session on that day. Not nice, so be extremely gentle, light pressure, side pressure a bit to alleviate the muscle, nothing more. Relieve the shoulder. You will have a position that will be naturally curved. Anything that will counter that will be ideal. My top tip here is, because I commute every day, I do this in the shower. Shower is great because a hot shower will actually help releasing the tension in the muscle. You've seen athletes doing a couple of things, either warm or very cold. These two, cold and hot, work really well in relieving the tension for different reasons, but they both work. Now, we don't have usually at our disposal an ice tank like professional players that they will submerge all together in the ice bath, but a hot shower for different reasons will work really well in releasing the muscle tension. So I do, while I actually shower, a bit of a routine to start alleviating the pressure from the neck, from the shoulder, stretching out my hand in one of the walls of the shower and pushing on one side to alleviate the pressure all on the frontal area and on the other side as well. It's very convenient. You do two things at once. Very important in this respect is to do all the movements in the correct position, starting from the bottom. Push correctly with the foot arched. This will put the leg in the correct position. Put a hand on your tummy to remind yourself at pushing the core, then do the movement to stretch the rest of the body. Then, still while showering, I will also try to relieve the pressure on the back and at the same time the pressure on the glutes. I will wash my legs, applying some pressure. It's like some sort of massage, and at the same time I will put down myself in this position to try to stretch the glutes on one side and on the other side. So again, very convenient. While you shower, you do this sort of slow movement, and also normal quad stretch, very simple. Again, putting the core inside, turning the hips forward and the leg slightly backwards to relieve the tension on the quads. So these nice and gentle movements help me throughout the day to relieve the tension. If you go for longer rides, then of course it would be much harder to alleviate the tension, because after a 4 hours ride, then you build up quite a strong tension in your muscle. This is very important at this stage to differentiate what we have to do in terms of stretching out. Stretching is a general broad term that kind of came to fame from the 80s onwards. But we do really need to understand what exactly are we stretching. What we need to do is alleviate the tension on the muscle, and believe it or not, it's not as easy as you might think. When you stretch your muscle, the muscle neurologically is designed to contract itself. Yes, it's the other way around. You try to stretch the muscle and it contracts because it actually wants to preserve the longevity of the muscle itself, and it doesn't really want to stretch that way. So you go in the position and it might have the opposite effect. If you keep pushing hard without being able to release the muscle, you will end up transferring the force to the ligament itself and possibly having some injuries. I've done it myself as well. I was trying to stretch my hip flexors, so I put myself in a position. I really pushed a bit hard and harder, so instead of relieving the pressure here or here, I ended up pushing too hard and the ligament, and I felt a pain for a week or so because I pulled too hard. Where is the good balance? Because of this mechanism of the muscle tensioning, we have moved from the classic passive stretching, but we need to find a way to actually release the tension without the muscle working against us. And this is where you need to switch to a concept, rather than stretching, moving to regaining range of movement. This is the focus that is a lot more effective to move from a concept of having to stretch yourself to actually regain the range of movement that you have lost because of the exercise. If you are doing sport that involve a lot of the same movements, eventually your body reacts. If you are, for example, always curved in this position, those muscles will be contracted and the back muscle will be tending to elongate themselves. Problem is, during the day, we don't want to stay like that, otherwise we'll be walking out like, dinosaurs. But we want to go back to a normal position. This is where we need to counteract this movement and consciously regain range of movement on the other side. That's why all the movement that will put you back to the normal range of movement will help, or also some exercise to counter the fact that we are pushing this muscle too hard, and in pulling the back muscle to counterbalance this effect. Same as with the legs. You want to work with the opposite muscle to try to alleviate the pressure on the other one. Regain all the range of movements that you might have lost during the exercise. For example, you can see on this side of the studio how I used to do some movements in a more static way. So I used to just leave the leg here and concentrate in relaxing and pushing towards the foot. This way, for the hamstring, it might work, but it takes time to actually release the muscle, because in this situation the muscle neurologically, to preserve itself, is tensioning. So if you push hard without really being able to relax, you will transfer the stress on the ligaments, and we don't want that. You could substitute this with a more dynamic movement. When you pull the leg up, of course there will be a counterbalancing effect of the opposite muscle trying to lift the leg, and the range will be better. On the quads, slowly pulling the leg up or slightly dangling, you will find the balance to avoid again muscle tensioning, and being able in a more dynamic way to pull the hips forward and work your way out to release the quads. You could also lift the leg up here and slowly coming on, trying to release the tension on the quads. Everything again needs to be gentle, within your range. As soon as you feel the muscle tensioning, release the pressure, because you might end up hurting yourself on the opposite side. This has worked for me really well. So this is a sort of dynamics to relieve the tension on a strong effort. We are not in this stage looking at any recovery from injuries or very tight muscle. That will need maybe some different approach. I had, for example, bursitis, which is an inflammation of the tendons here. I had very stiff muscle, and in that case you might relieve with some rollers or pressure, ibuprofen. There are different stages. It's not the point here to talk about injuries or more serious consequences of the exercise. To recap, things to avoid: hard stretch, keeping in the position for long, because highly likely that you will tension your muscle and you will push all the force on the ligaments that we don't want to touch. At our age, The ligaments, the joints, those are the weaker elements. We don't want to really push too much on that side. Find a way to gently regain range. Whatever movement you want to, you really need to feel that you want to push hard where you feel that your movement or range is not there anymore, because of course of our habits, your body has adjusted to a certain position and you want to counter. Let me know what routine works best for you. I'd love to hear from you. As usual, I'm so glad of your subscription. I'd love to hear your feedback as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you to the next video. Ciao!